In part 2 of our RStudio video series, I want to look at each of the panes and associated tabs separately and talk about what each of those do. Let's go ahead and start in the console, which on mine is right up here on the upper right. On yours might be on the upper left. In this console, we've already seen that we have R running within the console. So anytime that we want to use R for any command that R will understand, we can run it right within this console. The next tab is a terminal tab. This simply provides you a command line on your operating system. Obviously, this is going to have a different format if you're in Apple OS. I happen to be in Windows 10. And you can actually run commands from the command lines of Windows. This has nothing at all to do with R. This is simply, without closing down RStudio, if you need to run any sort of command line, like here, if I wanted to look at the directory structure of my active project, I could do that with the dir command. Obviously, you have to know the commands for your operating system. Again, nothing to do with R or RStudio, but that's what that tab is. It's a little window into the operating system that could be used without calling up a command line outside of RStudio. Why would they put this in RStudio? Well, this is useful for people who run big projects and do multiple runs in the console, one right after another, some of which might take even hours to run. Yes, there are scripts that you can create that will take hours to run. So that's also associated with this next tab, which is Jobs. Jobs allows you to actually batch in 2, 3, 4, as many as you want, different R scripts to run. And so Jobs is useful if you're working with scripts that are going to take a long time and you want to stack them up so you can see those running in the Jobs tab. As you might suspect, the Terminal tab and the Jobs tab are tabs that we're probably not going to use in this course and that you're rarely going to use. Maybe someday, if you get into the kinds of scripts like we've talked about, you could. But I'm just letting you know what those are because you're going to see them sitting there and you're going to wonder, what is that? Now, if you want, those two tabs, unlike many of the other tabs, can actually be closed. So we can actually click an X to close this, and we can click an X to close this. If we want to get them back, under Tools, under Terminal, we can say New Terminal, and it comes back. Under Tools, Jobs, we can say Show Jobs, and it comes back. So you might want to clean up your RStudio and just get rid of those tabs and know that they're there if you ever need them. Over here on my upper left, as we've talked about, this is where scripts are created. We only have one tab. Right now it's empty, but I do have my first project open, and offline I added some files to that so that I could show you that we can actually have multiple scripts open at once. So if I want to click on Hello World, I can have that open. If I want to click on two-group analysis, I can have that open. And this is here for a new script. I can close this if I want. I'll say don't save changes. So here I can work on two different scripts. I often am working on 6, 7, 8 scripts. In fact, when I grade student projects, I have as many tabs up across here as I have students in the course, and so I could end up with many tabs, like 17 of them. A useful tool when I have so many tabs going are these little arrows which allow me to go back and forth between tabs. Now, right now, they're not very useful, these little arrows here right at the top of the script panes. But if you had 17 tabs, you can imagine that they're going to fill up all this area, and then you're going to have a little notation to indicate that there are more tabs that you're not seeing, and you can use these little arrows to move back and forth. You also, if you want, can pull out each tab. This is called a terrible pane. Terrible, not T-E-R-R-I-B-E-L-E, T-E-A-R-A-B-L-E. You can tear it out. And you can do that with this little icon right here. So that little icon, as you see, will allow me to bring out my script into a separate window, and I can move it anywhere I want on my monitors and work on it there. In fact, if I come to the remaining tab here, I could pull that out. And if I want, I could put these side by side and resize them and work on them. So this can be convenient when you're working on a big project and you have multiple scripts and you want to see lots of them at the same time. You can use the terrible tab function. If you want to reverse the process, then you'll notice on this tab that there's a similar icon except the arrow pointing in the separate direction, and you click on that and it puts it back in. Here's my other one. I'm going to put it back in. The next icon is a little diskette. Right now we have nothing to save because everything's been saved, but if I were to add something to one of these scripts, clicking on that little diskette will save the newest version of your script. The source on save, we're going to save for later on when we talk about creating our own functions. That's where that will be useful. The next icon is a little find and replace. So let me go over here to a bigger script and use the find and replace. So if I want to find, say, my variable RData and replace it with, say, my data, I can do that. I can click the replace button and that would replace RData right here with my data. Now, a few things that I'll point out, because sometimes we do want to change all the variable names within a script for one reason or another. We've become convinced that there's a better way we could have named the variables. That happens to me, even with all the experience that I have. And so suppose I wanted to do a find and replace, and I see this little button here that says all. The all button will replace all the places where our data is. Very convenient, but also very dangerous. Look down a little bit further in my script. I have, let's see if I can find it. Okay, here's a better example. Instead of our data, let's suppose I was saying group var. Somehow got it capitalized. Group var. All right, so I want to replace the group var with say, instead of group var, I'm going to call it my var. All right, so if I now replace it, it will replace this group var with my var, but let's say I clicked all. Notice what's going to happen. Not only will it replace this variable, group var, but it will replace the first part of this variable that's called group var name. And now that will become my var name. Now maybe that's what I want, but maybe I did not want that. That was unintentional, that I only wanted to change group var. I didn't want to change down here group var name. So an option that you have is that we can click on whole word And now it will only change group var wherever it sees that it's an entire word. So group var name will be left intact. Similarly, if you want to make sure that the case matches, R is case sensitive. That means a lowercase a is a different variable than an uppercase a. So if you want to match cases, you can do that. If you want to only select part of your script, like I'm doing right here, and then click in selection, it will only do it within the selection. So there are many different options. Here's one here that you're going to learn about much later near the end of the course called regex, which stands for regular expressions. Let me go ahead and close this. The next button is one that we won't talk about today. It's special code tools that we have for things like when we're debugging, which means fixing code. Over here, I have something we're not going to use, compile a report. We've already seen that this will run one line of code. Let me go back to my hello world. So this will run one line of code, but note that I can also select all the code and click run, and it will run everything that's been selected. So that's another nice feature. If I click on this button, it will rerun whatever was run previous. That's helpful if you have a region in which you need to make a change and then you want to rerun it. You can do so. This little button here will actually do what's called sourcing. This is also going to run all, but what it's going to do is it's going to create temporary space and then feed it into the console from that temporary space. There are advantages and disadvantages to that we don't need to worry about here and get into here. So those are the basic elements of the script window. Now down here, the whole time we've been working, R has been recording everything that we've been doing. And it has been keeping what is called a history. So we have here this history tab. If I wanted to, I can even click on this icon and save history so that if I want to rerun in a similar fashion that I just ran things, I can do it again later. I can use this little icon here to load any history that I have available. Right now I have not saved history, and well, let's go ahead and do it. Let's go ahead and save history. I'll call it my first run, and we'll save that. And now let's click the broom, which will clear the history. And now let's click this little icon to open and open that history. And here is the history back in here again. So you can save the history. If I want, I can select a line and click to console, and look what happens. It puts it in the console, ready to run. If I want to select all of the lines, see if I can do that here. And then say to console, it puts them all in, and then when I hit enter, it runs them all. If I want to put this, let me open up a new script window, which I can do under the File command. If I open up a little new script tab, and let's suppose that I wanted to take and recreate the hello world that I initially had, so I've highlighted this and click to source, it will actually put it up in the script. So if you've run many things, let's say you have one large script and you've run it and you've decided, I really kind of want to break this up into separate scripts, you can see how you could do that at this point. This little icon will allow me to just remove certain things from the history. So let's go ahead and highlight those same two lines, and if I click on this, it asks, are you sure you want to remove those? And I said yes, and it removed those from the history. And the broom will remove everything from the history, and of course the search button over here will allow you to search for something in history.